Welcome to 101. I'm Greg Bassey, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. It's a big day here at PAC 14. We've got a friend in the house, Dr. Ray Hoy from Wor-Wic Community College. Welcome, sir.
Great to see you, Greg.
We haven't had you in for a long time, but you've been in the news so much lately. We have to have you come in and talk about all these things that are happening out at Wor-Wic.
We do. It's great stuff going on at Wor-Wic. We're real excited about some of the opportunities that we have to serve our public.
So for years, you've been saying, I've been saying you need a new building. You've been saying you don't need a new building. It's way off. But that time is here. And now the Guerreri Applied Technology Center has broken ground.
Yes, the Patricia and Alan Guerreri
Yes.
Applied Technology Building, because we have a Guerreri Hall already on campus. So due to the wonderful generosity of Alan Guerreri, we have another named Guerreri building on our campus.
So what will this building do?
This building will really offer some opportunities for the public. There's so many things going on today that it's so important to have a building like this, especially in a community college. We're going to have a number of the construction trade technologies that there's just a shortage of workforce for in our community. HVAC, plumbing, electrical, construction trades themselves. Transportation, CDL drivers, and simulation, welding, simulation labs for those things so that we can give people experience, especially in CDL. We'll put people behind a simulated driving trainer before they get on the road and perhaps play bumper cars with us.
Right.
So it's a great opportunity for that as well. Wonderful lab spaces, computer labs, student learning and engagement spaces. And a real exciting aspect of this building is makerspace. There's a lot of talk about what makerspaces are, what they do. What ours is going to do is give people an opportunity, both students and people in the community, to come in, innovate, apply different and new technologies, laser printers, 3D type laser printers, as well as 3D injection mold printing. All sorts of different things that people can do to try out new things, invent, innovate, and collaborate with others as they do these things.
So much of what you do is you identify problems in the community or needs in the community, and then you set up training programs to meet those needs. So you've got to be in constant communication with businesses. You've got to be aware very much what the economic structure is like, and then you build those training decisions based on that.
Well, it's pretty easy today. I can just flip a coin and say, this industry needs people. As we all know, it's a very challenging time in the workforce, and I've had a number of conversations lately with CEOs. Steve Leonard and I have talked 3 times. We're meeting tomorrow, talking about the nursing shortage, the need for CNAs. We've increased contract training with the hospital to try to get more people in the workforce. Dealt just a week ago with the Program Advisory Committee for Law Enforcement and Corrections, and met with the chiefs, 28 different agencies on the shore. Nobody can get police officers, and nobody can get corrections, and there's a shortage of 911 operators. Every industry that we talk to today needs people: hospitality, tourism. You can just go down the list. So we train in all those areas, which is great. But in the construction trades, that's been a shortfall, and something that we felt that we could step up and do more in. That building's also going to give us an opportunity to do more with solar and wind, alternative energy technology, and those sorts of things, as well as supply chain. Who knew the supply chain was going to be so screwed up at this point? But that's part of what we're going to be doing, helping people understand what the supply chain is all about and how we can help them work through their processes to improve.
Yeah, some of my peers, I see people that probably would have gone to VOTEC, what they used to call VOTEC,
Right.
And they didn't. They got on a college course, and then that didn't work out, and they really wish they had done, the other thing, the VOTEC thing, and they're able to do that now through a community college course and kind of go back and meet those needs.
Well, to your point, if you graduated from high school and did not go through the vocational education and current technical education today, CTE is the new terminology, you couldn't go back. You couldn't get it. And so you got it through apprenticing with somebody, getting a job as a laborer, starting out, and even apprenticeship programs. They're not readily available in our community. what we're trying to do is make sure that people who make that decision later in life, and it doesn't have to be that much later, have an opportunity to enter these very lucrative careers and opportunities. And the other thing we have to look at is the fact that the average age in many of these industries is very, very high. It's in the 50s. So who's going to fix our HVAC? Who's going to come and do our plumbing? Who's going to fix our electric when we have problems? We've got to train people to do that.
The Greys gave you a nice sum of money, but you're trying to raise $10 million?
We are. We have a $10 million campaign, and we timed it with COVID. Not on
Good
purpose,
timing.
obviously. Yeah, it's great timing. Let's go out with a campaign. We can't talk to anybody. That was a challenge, but we timed it with the start of this building, because one of the things that when we build a new building, we're going to have to equip this building, and this building is going to have more equipment than we have in a typical building, other than an allied health or maybe lab. But this has got a lot of high-priced equipment, and we recognize that when we get funding for buildings, which is a partnership with the state and our local counties, we don't get the funding for anything that can't last for more than 15 years. So that eliminates anything that has to do with technology. And everything in every industry today is technologically driven. So we identified about $2.5 million shortfall that we would have for equipment for this building. And rather than make that an operating expense and lay that on the counties after having a capital expense, we decided to raise that money. But going out for something like that, we said, well, look, there's other needs. And technology replacement is a huge expense. It's frankly the second largest expense we have annually after compensation. So we have a technology endowment. It's been very successful and important to us, but we felt that we could expand that, and if we could raise some more money for that, $3.5 million for that, it'd be great. And then everybody's favorite is scholarships. How can we help people to get a leg up, to get the education and training they need to be successful? And we identified $4 million for that. So it's a $10 million campaign. As I said, we started out, and we started out very well. I met with the Henson Foundation, and they were very generous, offering $2 million. But we put a stipulation on it that we have to match that money. So for every dollar we raise, we get $1 from the Henson Foundation, and we're doing it on an annual basis. So we are looking to raise $400,000 a year to get that dollar for dollar match. At the same time, the state of Maryland passed a bill, and it was a workforce technology bill. And what the state says is, if you raise $500,000, we'll match it dollar for dollar as long as it's for workforce technology and training. Well, that ties directly into this program. So we have a chance to match 3 for 1 at this point.
Wow.
And that's an incredible opportunity. We came out of the chute, we finally got people involved with the Guerreri gift. We're really at $8 million already. And that's the time you go public. We try raising the last $2 million. It's going to take some effort, but we feel pretty well poised to do that, and especially with the generous support from the Henson Foundation for the matching contribution, as well as the opportunity with the state of Maryland to match that. I think we're going to meet our goal and hopefully exceed it. But it's a great opportunity, and obviously great need for scholarships, the technology, as well as the equipment for this new building.
Am I naive, or would I just would assume that the companies that are going to benefit from the training you're providing their future employees would run to you and give you the money to help finance that?
Well, that's the people that we're trying to get in touch with. And again, through COVID, we were rather restricted and haven't been able to talk to everybody we want to, but we're starting to get back out. We've got a wonderful group of people who volunteered to serve on this committee that includes some of the people that you mentioned there. So we're out, we're meeting with people, starting to get the word out, and hopefully we're going to be able to get the dollars to make these things work.
You mentioned state action, and one thing I'm fascinated by is that you actually have an involvement in what the Kirwan Commission has going on. I forget the formal name of the Kirwan
Blueprint
Commission.
for Maryland's Future.
Blueprint for Maryland's Future. What's your role in how that rollout from this thing, which is increasing our educational standards across the board in the state so that we're one of the best educated states, what role do you play in that?
It's very interesting that the role the community colleges have, a lot of it has to do with dual enrollment, which is enrolling high school students in college while they're still in high school. And there's 5 aspects of the blueprint for Maryland's future, the Kirwan Commission outcomes, and we're involved in 3 of them. I'll quickly go over a couple. Early childhood education, very important part of early childhood, and early childhood education is a very big part of the Kirwan Commission outcomes to make sure we have preschool educators and preschool opportunities for children.
Yeah, all the studies show these pre-kindergarten kids do much better.
They do much, much better,
Yeah.
and we train those teachers. So it's going to expand and enhance what we're doing in that arena. Excuse me. Another area of interest in the Kirwan Commission and in what we do is called college and career readiness. And so it's just not being ready for college, but it's also being ready for career. And the expectation for this outcome that we're spending a couple of $1 billion on over a 10-year period is that
The state. Yeah.
not we.
Yeah.
We don't have it.
Yeah.
At least not yet. I did hear somebody in Salisbury won the lottery twice, but it wasn't the big one.
Right.
But in any event, what the goal is that by the end of 10th grade, students will be college or career ready. Well, that's a big change from where we are today. So the expectation is that at the end of 10th grade, students will be able to start college and graduate from college concurrently with high school. And they'll be working with the community colleges to earn up to 60 credits that will be paid for. They won't have to pay for it. It's not like, oh, I have to pay tuition to go to college now. You can get the first 2 years while you're still in high school, and families will not be paying for that education. So we'll be offering that. But an expanded piece to it, because historically, and we have a very large population of dual enrollment students today, over 500 students annually take classes with us while they're still in high school. But they take 1, 2, 3, 4 classes, not 60 credits. But the big difference in this particular program is that those students who are taking it now are generally taking gen ed courses, general education, the English, math, psych, history, some science classes. Going forward, the state wants to see more career and technical education for these students. And they don't offer everything in the high schools. So what we're doing with this new building is offering an expanded opportunity for career and technical education for high school population. And they can go from where they are in high school and even expand on that, and we'll take them a step farther. So it's going to be a wonderful opportunity for all the way around, and it fits perfectly in with the Kirwan expectations.
Yeah, the Kirwan Commission kind of got sidelined a little bit during COVID with the concerns about the expenses involved with that.
Sure.
But right before things went haywire, Dr. Britt Kirwan, who was the chancellor when I was at Maryland,
Right.
Was down in your shop and held a really informative public session right there at Wor-Wic, and it was just tremendous to see him come there and answer a lot of the questions. There was a lot of hostility with this thing, but I thought, he did a great job explaining it.
He did. Britt's a great guy, and what he tried to remind everybody is this was not his initiative. He was merely chairing the commission, convening the group, and helping with the direction and the final outcome of the report. But it's not his report, although it has the name, the Kirwan Commission. However, certainly he knows everything that's in it, and he wanted to explain piece by piece what this is all about, what the expectation is, and why it's going to cost as much as it's going to cost.
I read in the Salisbury Rising special section in my favorite newspaper, the
Salisbury Independent. My favorite paper too.
My favorite local paper. I've got a lot of favorite bigger papers. But I read a story that you all have a strategic plan. You've got some big ideas for what's going on there on the campus.
Every 5 years, we work on a new strategic planning process. And everything we do starts with our mission, our vision, our values, and then our strategic goals. And when we do budgeting, our employees have to link their budget requests to our strategic goals and priorities. Otherwise, they're not going to get funded. So it's a very thoughtful process and a very involved process that we involve community members as well as students and staff in the development of a strategic plan. as we went through the process last spring and we tried to do it in a Zoom environment, we just felt as though we weren't getting the level of discussion that's necessary to come up with the best plan possible. We really had this scheduled for last spring to complete that process. So we put it off to fall, hoping that we could get together and meet in person. And we picked up where we left off and spent a good deal of time and had wonderful discussion and dialogue and involved more and more people in the community to come up with a new plan with 4 priorities to lead us into the future. They vary from what we were doing in the past, but not significantly. We also revised the mission or tweaked it a little bit and made it more current, made it more updated so that we could make sure that we're addressing the needs of our local community. We're going to be rolling that plan out this spring, and all of our employees as well as the public will be informed about how we're going to proceed going forward.
Yeah, it's a great campus, but there's so much potential to make it even greater.
Well, there's wonderful opportunities. Now, we did a master plan for the campus and have 7 additional building sites. Now, Greg, I'm not going to see them in my lifetime. You might. But
Yeah, I'm sure of that. Yeah.
but what we want to do is make sure that we don't make a mistake and step on a piece of the footprint that should be used for something else. So we do a lot of planning at the institution to make sure that we're looking to the future. The same thing with fundraising. We're trying to build endowments in many cases to look to the future. Everything we do is looking beyond today. We're serving our students and citizens today, but we want to look to our future to make sure that we continue to do that in many, many years to come.
Have you been able to assess yet what the ultimate impact of COVID was on, the quality of education and what you all went through?
Well, there's a number of things that we look at and have to think about, and I personally am concerned for the next generation of kids who are going through school today through our K-12 system and coming to college, and what's also happening in the college system. We've had some fairly good outcomes, but we also lost a lot of students in this process who have decided to sit out and wait. Higher education has taken a huge hit in enrollment through COVID, as you might expect. This fall, there was an expectation that everybody was going to come running back, and it didn't happen. So at some point, it should. And we're going to be assessing the impact of that for quite some time. But we lost some students, interestingly. We've got a lot of selective admission programs, especially in the healthcare arena. And we lost a lot of students who were afraid that they might not get an A in certain courses that they need in order to access those selective admission programs. So they just dropped out. Thought they'd do better in a face-to-face environment.
Right, they might not get an A because they were doing it remotely and they weren't able to participate the same way.
Right.
Okay.
And for some of us, I know that I'd be challenged remotely. I am a face-to-face type person, but I've seen a lot of students thrive in the remote environment. So what we did was we came back with 6 different learning modalities that included online, virtual, online, asynchronous, synchronous. What's all that crap mean? Well, what that really means is you could take a class from typical Monday, Wednesday, 9:30, 10:15, whatever, 10:45 time frame. You could take the class at that time with students, but you'd be doing it online. We had another option where you could take your class at 4 o'clock in the morning if you so chose. We had hybrid opportunities where you could come to class or come to campus one day a week, but you could limit your time on campus and do the other at a certain hour or virtually. So ended up with 6 different teaching modalities, and there was almost equal interest in each. We kind of had a 30%, 30%, 30%, and I say 6, but either in person or hybrid or virtual. It kind of split out evenly. So we're going to have to look at that going forward and say, okay, is this the model for education in the future? Is this how we're going to have to deliver it because this is what our constituents want? And Is it serving their needs? That's the real question. And how do we make sure that we're giving them the same support services that they received in an on-campus environment? Moving those support services into a virtual environment was something of a challenge, just like the transition that we had to go through at the beginning of COVID. We're used to it now, and we've got these processes down pretty well. And it's interesting, we're finding that many students are accessing their advisors more often and for longer periods of time than they did when they had the strict face-to-face environment. So some of the things we've learned are that we can do things better in a virtual environment, and there are some things that we do better in a face-to-face environment.
Yeah, I think it would be harder to catch a professor, in a social thing after class or make an appointment to go to the office as opposed to just doing it online.
Yeah, it is. You think, oh, well, they're here.
Right.
But yeah, you're running to another class,
They're
or
distracted,
they're doing something else
Yeah.
and getting ready for something. They have office hours. All of our professors have office hours to meet with students, but those particular hours may not align with what your needs are. However, in a virtual environment, it becomes more readily accessible.
Yeah, and in my college career, whenever I approached a professor, I got the look of, what stupid thing does this guy want to know now? I had that. So to have it be done remotely would have been a lot simpler.
Yeah, and you don't get to see the expression as clear.
Yeah, you don't really know where you stand in the class.
Yeah.
You mentioned that it's a recurring thing. So you've gone 2 years now dealing with this.
Mm-hmm.
And I know in the beginning it was quite the challenge. I was so impressed if you would visit your campus. No one was getting on that campus if they had a high temperature. I mean, everyone was screened on the way in. It was a remarkable system that you had. But you say you're having to deal with this all the time now, so it's part of your normal workflow.
It is. Some of our staff, we didn't increase staff. We were able to use some of the CARES money, the HERF money, the federal funds to help support the impact of COVID. It's been extremely important to all of higher education. And we're able to use those dollars to hire the people that made sure that when the people came to campus, they brought their mask, they had their temperature taken, asked them the questions, do you have any symptoms of COVID today? All those sorts of things. But as we've moved forward, more people have been vaccinated, and the health of the community has improved. We've transitioned. We're still requiring masks on campus, just like right here at Salisbury University, requiring masks at our institutions of higher education and in our public schools. The social distancing has been relaxed a little, but we still have outbreaks, but we're dealing with them differently. At one point, we were quarantining entire classes. Now, if you're vaccinated, you don't need to be quarantined. Now, if you weren't sitting within 6 feet of the person for 15 minutes, you don't have to be quarantined. So it's more precision quarantining and safety, and seems to be working.
I just saw in my favorite newspaper again that you won a Chamber Award recently. What was that?
Frankly, that had to do with COVID, and the Chamber recognized my colleagues Heidi Anderson, president of University of Maryland Eastern Shore, and Chuck White, president of Salisbury University, and myself for our efforts during COVID. I think one of the reasons we received that recognition was we were three of very few institutions across the state of Maryland that reopened a year ago and started to address students' face-to-face needs. So it was very nice of the Chamber to recognize us. And I was humbled to be sharing that award with my colleagues.
But what I saw too in the community, that you guys sort of set the standard, like people didn't know how to react to this thing. And you would see what SU was doing or Wor-Wic was doing, and then maybe businesses copied that. You guys were taking it seriously, so everyone else had to take it seriously. So you were really a telltale on the whole thing.
Well, that's nice to say. I hope that some of what we were doing was helpful to others. We were invited to speak at a number of occasions with the Chamber as well as others to talk about what we were doing, and maybe that helped other people as they navigated this. Nobody had a playbook, and we were all trying to figure it out. And I want to give Chuck White a lot of credit. He brought together the presidents of all the Eastern Shore colleges, from Washington College, Chesapeake, all the way down, and we conversed quite a bit and talked about, okay, here's how we're handling this, what are you doing about that? And we had those discussions to help us all along. It was very meaningful.
I forgot to ask, also, during COVID, there was a situation where you weren't able to graduate some nurses for a while because they weren't able to do their practicals. Has that sorted itself out?
Well, it's not just nurses, occupational therapy assistants, physical therapy assistants, CNAs. It took a while for some of the accrediting agencies to figure out how we're going to do this. We can't get these people in clinical settings in the hospitals or off-site clinical facilities. How are they going to graduate? And oh my gosh, they have to graduate because we need these people in the workforce today. Again, there's still a severe shortage of healthcare workers around the country and certainly in our community. So there was a delay because we couldn't get people out, and we had to restructure how we were doing clinicals. In some cases, they allowed us to do them, not virtually, but without going to a clinical site, and we modeled it on campus with our labs and that sort of thing, and worked through some of those processes.
Are you ever able to take a minute and say to yourself just how amazing it is that, you know, you guys train the community, the whole peninsula's police officers, the x-ray technicians, the nurses, the truck drivers, the accounting majors, whatever else I'm leaving out, just the array of people that you all train at Wor-Wic to make our community so much better?
You know, maybe I don't take that minute until I'm in the situation where I'm having an x-ray. Hi, where'd you get your training?
Right.
Well, of course, at Wor-Wic, Dr.
Yeah.
Hoy, take your shirt off. But it's not just that, obviously. It's everywhere I go. I run into people who are Wor-Wic graduates and just so proud of their experience that they had. And Greg, as you know, 90% of our students, our graduates, stay and live in our community, even those that go on and earn bachelor's, master's, and doctorates. They come back and live here. So I know that this institution has a profound impact on our community. It's an economic impact. It helps us with that brain drain situation that you hear so much about, that people are leaving the community and not being part of it. They are part of it, and they continue to be, and I'm proud that we're able to do that for our community.
He's Dr. Ray Hoy. He's the president of Wor-Wic Community College. We're so thrilled he had time to be with us here today, doing just an amazing thing out there on Walston Switch Road. Dr. Hoy, thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Greg. It's great to be with you.
I'm Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent newspaper, another edition of 101 right here on PAC 14.
First Shore Federal is proud to support PAC 14 and one-on-one. We'd encourage every business to support PAC 14 and pick a program and support it, and let's make a difference.